So tell me what happened the instant you found out the doctor said you had cancer.
Man, I actually was sitting there and I didn't think that anything was going to happen just because in my life I was like, no, it's not going to happen to me. You know, and as soon as she said that, I fell back and I literally felt a weight falling through my body from my head to my toe. It was something I've never thought I would experience. And when that happened, you know, we're like right away, you know, just in my family, we're all about finding an answer. And so, you know, my dad said, hey, can we do anything? Is there something that we can do? And she said, no, I'm sorry, there's nothing that we can do here. And, you know, he said, so you're telling my son he can go have a beer and a burger? And she nodded her head and said, yes, sir, that's what I'm saying.
My God.
My life changed right there.
So your mom and dad were sitting in the room?
Yes.
Well, how did they react to this?
They had to be strong, you know, as parents. I mean, I think, you know, my mom, she's a go-getter. She's always going to find an answer. My dad's kind of the strong part of it all, but they were strong. And honestly, I'm going to be honest, I don't really remember because I was just, I felt like I was on a whole different earth as soon as she said those words to me.
Yeah.
So
basically, did you start worrying about this and thinking about it constantly, like, oh shit, you know, my life's over?
I would say so. I mean, as soon as I walked out of that room, and I remember exactly the room I was in, I remember exactly who was there, where everybody was sitting. As soon as I walked out of there, I said, why am I here? Like, is there anything I can do? I mean, if there's nothing I can do, why am I even out, you know, here? You know, I feel there's no purpose now. Everything's just gone.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Yeah, I can't imagine just going through that because it's just like the most massive shock to your system. One day you have a headache, whatever you find, and then you get a headache, and all of a sudden the next day it's like it's over. So then at that point, obviously something might have, I'm sure your parents or yourself started searching for alternatives. Is that what happened?
Yeah. I mean, again, both my parents they're hardworking, and they put in a lot of work of like, okay, is this a trial? Should he be doing this? Should we take this out? And so on and so forth. And my dad actually found keto, but I actually was meeting with a good friend of mine, you know, just to meet up and tell him about what was going on. And he told me about this ketogenic diet. I was like, what? Like, what is that, you know? He's like, well, it's been shown to really help prevent tumor growth and potentially even shrink tumors. And so I was like, oh, okay, you know, sounds a little crazy eating a ton of fat there, but I'll check it out. So I checked it out, found you, and I just, voila, I learned about it day by day, you know, day by day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Basically, you had a glioblastoma, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was the most aggressive tumor of the brain.
Yes.
So it's a tumor of the brain. I'm sure you probably were trying to study that and just trying to figure out what the heck, why is this doing this, and etc. So to make a long story short, you actually got involved in learning about the ketogenic diet, and you started it. And I even remember you did call my show, called my show, and you asked a question. You said, if you were me, what would you eat, or what would you do?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because there's certain moments in this entire journey that I specifically remember. Everything from, you know, the time I had a seizure while driving, taken to the hospital, doctor telling me that I will lose my hearing ability and my speaking ability, you know, and then I get a new surgeon who, top in the world, didn't happen. And there's certain moments that I just significantly remember. And one of the most, if not the most, was when I called you on your live stream to get a question answered. And I said, Dr. Berg, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? And you knew I was on keto because I told you, and you said I would eat 100% organic food, straight organic. And I was like, okay, wow, I guess I need to do this.
Wow.
So I did it, and I have not touched anything else ever since.
And how long ago has it been since you started to now?
Man, so I've been on keto for about 2.5 years, and I went from diagnosis through chemo and radiation for about, I would say 6 to 10 weeks of just my regular diet of just, you know, bread, oats, grains, wheats, pasta, spaghetti, you know, all that sort of stuff, you know. So about 6 months or 6 weeks in that time, 6 to 10 was regular diet, not good diet.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow. But then you switched over and you started being more disciplined.
100%. Yeah. That's when I found keto.
And basically, you had it on your left side of your head.
Yeah, right here.
Right there. Okay. And they did surgery. They took it out. Okay. So just realize, guys, this is the most aggressive tumors of the brain, and it usually takes people out. The prognosis is not very good, and he's still around, and he's doing great. Were the doctors kind of like surprised or amazed at this point?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I do MRI check-ins every 3 months now, and I tell them, I say, hey, you know, doctor, I'm feeling great. They're like, hey, you know, how's your vision? How's your balance? And I'm like, you want me to stand up and do some exercises for you? And they actually take me through some, and they're just heavily impressed with how consistent these check-ins are and the results that they're showing and stuff.
Wow. It's incredible. What's really weird is that there's actually 21,000 people that die every single day from cancer. That's in the world. 21,000 people? That is like a small city.
Yeah,
people dying
every day.
For that. So what I want to talk about is some real interesting data about cancer that I think you pretty much know most of it, but might be some points that you might not know, and also for the viewers out there. So there's some original research that was done by Otto Warburg. Okay, I don't know if you've heard of him, but
yeah,
he's a guy way back that found that there's this single difference between healthy cells and cancer cells. There's this one difference. Because if you're going to try to treat someone with cancer, the sane solution is to try to understand it, like what is it, right? There's one specific thing that's very unique of every single cancer cell, and it's not has anything to do with normal cells, and it has to do with the metabolism of the cell itself. We generate our metabolism from these little energy factories called mitochondria. Okay, in the mitochondria, that's where you generate energy. And a normal cell, to generate energy, you use something called aerobic respiration. Now this is a long fancy word for basically, all that means is you break down your food, protein, carbohydrates, and fats, into smaller particles, and you get energy from it. That's all that means. So, and you need oxygen. That's why it's aerobic with air. That's what aerobic means, right? So basically, normal cells get their energy from aerobic respirations, which basically means burning fuel with oxygen produces this energy with some waste. But a cancer cell is very, very different. They don't use aerobic respiration. They use something called anaerobic respiration. That means without oxygen. Another term for that, if there's any medical people that are watching this, it's called fermentation. So a fermentive process. And fermentation is a type of process where you're not using oxygen. And so people think about fermentation, they think about, fermenting vegetables or fermenting pickles, or no, we're not talking about that. That's a completely separate thing as far as like that happening in your body. You're not having this fermentation of like making pickles or alcohol or anything like that. And also, just by eating fermented foods is not going to cause cancer. The point is that there's something that happens in the cell. There's a breakdown in the mitochondria that then causes your body to adapt to a different metabolism called anaerobic respiration or fermentation. Basically, it's an ancient primal system that billions of years ago our cells used when we didn't have a lot of oxygen on this planet. That happens to be kind of like still in our cells, that remnant primal type ancient system. So when there's damage to the mitochondria, and I'll come back to that in a second, you then get this different metabolism that occurs in the cell, okay, where your body is fermenting sugar. And something else, which I don't want to get into yet, but I just want to tell you it's fermenting sugar. So it's basically taking sugar without oxygen, and it's turning into energy. It's not an efficient system at all. In fact, it doesn't produce the same amount of energy, but it allows the cell to continue. The problem is it also starts developing undifferentiated cells, which basically means now instead of making like tissues to grow your hand or your heart, it'll just make like random tissues. So if you look in cancer cells, there's like, it's not a specific cell, it's kind of a random, and it has just a regular, just a growth of tissue. So that's one of the problems. It starts invading and it's getting out of control. Okay? So there's So that is the main difference, is you have this different system of producing energy. Now, here's the thing. If cancer lives on glucose, and ketosis is the diet without using or being forced to use glucose, wouldn't it make sense to be doing a ketogenic diet, right?
100%.
Yeah. So there's another researcher from Boston, Dr. Thomas Seyfried. Okay. Famous guy. He's like done amazing research on ketosis and intermittent fasting with cancer. Okay. Fantastic results. And so he is like the expert, the authority on ketosis when it comes down to cancer, especially of the brain too. So this is what he did. He's done research where he injected the brains of rats or mice with stage 4 glioblastoma tissue.
Wow.
And then he did research and put them through the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting. And he found a great improvement. But it wasn't overwhelming to the point where like amazing success. It was some great success compared to anything else, but it wasn't like mind-blowing. And he wanted to know like, why was that? Why didn't the ketogenic diet handle this glioblastoma cancer? Because it's also good for other cancers. Because he wanted to experiment on the most aggressive type of cancer, which is basically what you had, glioblastomas. So then he had a kind of a light bulb go off and said, when you ferment sugar, when a cancer cell ferments sugar, it also ferments a protein, an amino acid called glutamine. So cancer cells not only live on glucose, but they live on glutamine too. Interesting.
Wow.
Then at the same time of putting these mice on a ketogenic diet, he gave them it's called a glutamate antagonist or a glutamate blocker. It's a type of chemical, I'm not going to give you the long name, that actually blocks the absorption of glutamine. Okay? That's when he saw massive results. The combination of both of those elements, which basically completely starve off the tumor, created massive destruction of cancer cells. Now this research is very, very new, and you would think it'd be in the front page of the newspaper, but it's not, because number one, it's new. People don't know about it. It's hard to promote it because it's hard to explain. I have to go through a whole video to even explain how it works. And also there's no money in it. And that's why it's hard to get funding.
Yeah.
But this research is brand new, but it's very exciting because it tells us why the ketogenic diet works. Okay? Because it basically, tumor cells cannot survive on ketones. They can't survive on ketones. So basically you're going to attack them from what they're eating. Okay? So let me just take it from the very beginning. So the first thing that happens with a cancer cell is that you have damage first to the mitochondria. Then you have an alteration of the fuel system. Then we have what's called mutations, which is alterations in the genes. Okay? And that's where all the research is done on chemo and chemotherapy and radiation therapy, is like addressing the mutation. But they're not very successful because they're not handling this fuel problem, because it's the glutamate and it's the glucose that is feeding and fueling the cancer. And also one of the byproducts of that is a very powerful antioxidant. So even though it's destructive and it's kind of an insane thing, that cancer cell is making antioxidants to protect itself. It's insane. That's a whole other seminar. But the point is that there's an original destruction or breakdown of the mitochondria that needs to be addressed if you really want to bring this person to a full remission and even get them to the point where they're preventing this problem from happening in the very beginning. And this book comes right back to what you mentioned that really helped you, is talking about organic foods. Organic means without the use of pesticides, right? Okay, so check this out. This is called toxicology, the study of poisons. Okay, these are all the poisons that are carcinogens, they're cancer causing in the environment. Pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides. These are the triggers to cancer. Okay, so if you're asking me what causes cancer, it's usually a combination of things that trigger it, like chemicals, radiation, cell phone radiation, which is a new thing, EMF, powerful, holding it up to your head, like right where the cancer can go, right? Which I think could be a connection. Because how many kids do this? Okay, so that's why, in fact, I don't like cell phones too much. So you have that, you have viruses, you have certain stresses, even excessive exposure to glucose can all damage the mitochondria to cause it to change its metabolism. Okay, so thank goodness there are foods that you can get without these poisons. And those are organic. Organic comes with foods without poisons. And also, organic is also non-GMO. GMO foods are exposed with glyphosate, which is an herbicide, Roundup Ready. So by removing those triggers and consuming real food, organic food, you can probably prevent cancer. Okay, that's number one. But let's say, for example, with you, he's going on a ketogenic diet, doing intermittent fasting. I don't think that's enough. I think we also have to add in the nutrition and the quality of food. We have to add in something to start to detoxify the chemicals that originally caused it in the first place, and that would be the phytochemicals. They're called plant-based chemicals. So you have vitamins and minerals, and then you also have additional things in plant-based foods and also other foods that are called phytochemicals. So if you're consuming iceberg lettuce, for example, versus kale, that would be an example. You would want to do more kale. So if you study what a superfood is, or high-quality greens, deep, dark leafy greens, or things with high levels of phytonutrients, they all seem to be involved in research of helping with cancer or decrease the risk of cancer. That's because they start healing the mitochondria. Okay, so that's why what we're recommending is a version of ketosis called healthy ketosis, where we want to use high-quality ingredients. Another reason why I want people to consume 7 to 10 cups of vegetables with each day. High-quality vegetables. Why? Because of the phytonutrients. Well, what are we doing? You're actually preventing cancer. And also you're repairing the damage to the mitochondria. If people have a strong mitochondria, they cannot get cancer. The cells won't adapt to this other system. So it's the phytochemicals that really protect you, even if you're exposed to radiation and chemicals. But I think it's the combination of dropping out these good things and being exposed to radiation and the chemicals that are the perfect storm. Okay? Because again, the cancer lives on glucose and that amino acid. So you really have to understand the whole aspect of this complex problem. But when you really look at it, it's actually kind of simple. And that's why keto is like essential. Intermittent fasting is also essential for the immune system. But also make sure the food that you're eating is very high quality phytonutrients. So I kind of wanted to cover that just to kind of chime in on what you're really doing that right now, but I want to kind of emphasize why it hasn't come back yet. Yeah.
I mean, it's something I've stick to, and it's a new lifestyle. It's not like, oh man, that must be difficult for you, and it's not. Like my mood, my energy overall. Like I definitely give the props to keto, but I also give it to the quality of the food, because I noticed on keto, like, and not that regular keto is bad, but when I took it up a notch, it was like, wow, okay, I have no cravings. My moods are always great. I just feel good, and I give the quality of the food. I feel like that has played a big role in it.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing, because sometimes you'll have people saying, well, I'm doing my own version of keto or intermittent fasting, but I'm eating what I want, and you can see it's like really crappy food.
Yeah.
Well, they don't realize that keto is not just for weight loss, it's for health. It's for protecting your cells against harmful things, diseases and diabetes and cancer. But since 21,000 people die of cancer every single day in the world, it'd be good to understand the mechanism. You're going to see in the next 5 years a huge shift in awareness on this ketogenic diet, and also using it as an adjunct therapy for cancer. And am I saying never to get surgery? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, what about a glutamate antagonist? Why not using that and cut your stress down? Stress can also be a big trigger. But it starts with the basics. It starts with the fuel, what you put in your body and what you run on. But one thing you guys got to know, and this is a fact, tumors cannot survive on ketones. Okay? So that's all I got to say, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, 100% keto all day.
Thank you very much for this interview, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll put some links down below for some more of the research done by some of the top guys in the world. You got to check it out. All right, guys, thanks for watching.